case of everything's been said, but not everyone has said it. So being last, I get to follow up with many of the wonderful things that have been said here today. Now, on the 10th Amendment, the federal government was originally, under the 10th Amendment, limited to national defense, immigration, issuing currency, raising revenue to operate the national government, foreign relations, and resolving disputes between the states. I didn't see anything there about taking care of our national health care with a socialized plan. Have any of you seen that? Congressmen and women across the nation are being asked one question. Can you congressmen or congresswomen please tell me the specific site to the Constitution that allows the nationalization of health care? They will not answer, or they cannot answer, because it is not there. Now, occasionally, you'll hear somebody say, well, it's a necessary and proper clause. That's cited as an elastic clause meant to cover all acts of Congress. The reason we have a 10th Amendment is to allow states to develop different policies and experiment with them, and then if they work, other people adopt them. If they don't work, you let them go. The most recent example was Massachusetts put in a socialized health care plan, one-payer system, like the federal government is talking about. It didn't work. It did not work. Why should we put every American under such a plan? Some of the plans that did work were, if you go and look at what was done in Oregon back in the 80s, with the reform that was done with welfare. Several other states took to that program and said, you know what, this is good. We can reform welfare and we can cut those costs and put those people to work. And it worked. And it worked so well that the national government eventually took over and did that. And that was started in one state. We also have Milwaukee experimented with school vouchers. That worked, and now children all over the country are able to go and get a better education because of a program that came out of one city in America. That's why we have a separation of powers and a federal government, not a national government. Now, last year, the cacistocracy of Maryland, and for those of you who weren't here the last time I spoke, a cacistocracy is government by the least qualified to lead and the least unethical. And that's what we have up there right now.
Fire them!
The cacistocracy in Maryland decided it was a good idea to just, let's pick out somebody we're going to tax. We'll tax all the people who are in the computer industry. Well, what they didn't bother to realize was they'd say, we'll just pack up and move to Virginia. And when that started to come to fruition, they had to repeal that tax. And because other states were able to look and see what was the result when Maryland made a bad choice on who to tax, they've decided not to go ahead with that tax. And again, that's another example of the 10th Amendment working when the states can do something and other states can look at it and say, that's not the way we want to go. Now we face a national government that's created and spent trillions of dollars. It has nationalized our banking and our financial and auto industries. Under the guise of environmental protection, it seeks to regulate all facets of American industry. And now it wants to nationalize our health care. Does anybody want to see that health care nationalized? No! Did anybody participate in the program where you take your car in and you get a few dollars from the federal government for that? No! If they can't run that program and they still can't get those people paid, how are they supposed to take care of trillions of dollars and millions, hundreds of millions of people in a national health care program? I, for one, will not go quietly into that dark night of socialism. I will not surrender to the national government the constitutionally guaranteed sovereignty of the state of Maryland. Last year, we had a bill, and the bill said we're going to stop state police from spying on liberal or progressive groups that are out here. And I stepped up with others who are concerned about the constitutional protections and said, that is right. You need probable cause before you can go and spy on our citizens. But now, I don't see my liberal friends, I don't see my progressive friends standing up to come to my aid when I, as a United States Marine, am being labeled a potential domestic terrorist because I swore an oath to this government. Hoorah, Semper Fi. Now, for those of you, some people out there are going to say, well, that doesn't exist, or he's just exaggerating. I have right here in my hand, and I'll show it to anybody who wants to see it, the assessment. It's an intelligence assessment from the Homeland Security under Janet Napolitano. This was put out April 7th, 2009. And in this document, how many here are veterans? Any veterans? Let me hear from you. How many people here are pro-life? Let me hear from you. How many people here support the Second Amendment? How many people support the 10th Amendment? How many people are against illegal immigration? Every single one of you, who I just asked if you were one of those things, under this United States government document, is considered a potential domestic terrorist. Call me a patriot if I'm any of these things. I am not a domestic terrorist. That is what's happening to our 10th Amendment. The government has said now, officially, if you are in favor of the 10th Amendment, the states' rights, then you are a potential domestic terrorist. Now, a nice group, and I want to give them proper credit, came out and said, well, we'd like to find out what the government used as a basis for coming up with that information. And so, the Americans for Limited Government did a Freedom of Information Act, and I have a copy of that here. And the Freedom of Information Act said, can you tell us, federal government, where you got the facts and statistics to say that those people who are veterans, who support the Second or the 10th Amendment, who are against illegal immigration, or for pro-life, where did you get the information to say that those people are potential domestic terrorists? And do you know where they got the information? They went to the internet. Our United States government, in an intelligence assessment of a threat to the country, went to the internet. And they went to such sites as like the endoftheworld.com, somebody who had previously reported the government had a radio that could talk to God and had intentionally destroyed it. I'm not making this stuff up. I'm serious as a heart attack. This is scary stuff. They went ahead and used that as the basis for coming out. Now my question is, this one was exposed. This one was required to be turned over to the people. How many other intelligence assessments are out there right now that are based on such faulty, flimsy information? I guarantee you, if this was a Republican in charge of the intelligence that came out, they would be calling for them to be fired. There is no excuse for Americans being treated this way. Now, I know you're all in a hurry to get up here, and we're going to have our circle the State House. But I want to leave you with one last thought. If the 10th Amendment says that we are entitled to do as we choose in each state, then I want to tell you what Maryland says that you should do. According to the Maryland Bill of Rights, Article 6, it says to each of you that all persons who are invested with legislative or executive powers of government are trustees of the public, and as such, they should be accountable for their actions. Wherefore, whenever the ends of government are perverted and public liberty is manifestly endangered, and all other means of redress are ineffectual, the people may and of right ought to reform the old and establish a new government. The doctrine of non-resistance. The doctrine of non-resistance against arbitrary power and oppression is absurd slavish, and destructive of the good and happiness of mankind. That is what your Article 6 in Maryland's Declaration of Rights says, and the United States Constitution, through Article 10, says that we are entitled to believe and act upon that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to have one more quick auction here. Raffle. And let me read some numbers. I got to read. Everybody got their flashlights so they can read their tickets? Here, you want to.
Get your flashlights out, everybody. Let me see them.